world and secret society that takes oaths to Lucifer and participates in blood rituals, whether sacrifices, drinking, or both. And their practices in ritual and black magic are taken directly from the Talmud. You know, is there any doubt that our end was ordained at the beginning? Because you can trace the Talmud Satanists today back to the worship of Molech, and even before that, it's ancient. And today it's the same practices and old lies, just repackaged with a new name called the New World Order. You know, every disgusting teaching or belief of the Talmud are the same beliefs that the Illuminists hold today. We've been steered away from the Jewish aspect of it. They want us to believe that it's this Talmud that is this book is the holiest book in Israel, and it's not. It's pure garbage. And the real Christians, Jews today in Israel, disregard the Zionists and want nothing to do with them. They know that the New World Order Zionists are nothing but a practicing arm of Satanists. But the problem today with the Jews in Israel is that they still hold to this Talmud. And the reason being is that they're controlled on what they read and what they believe, and the whole system is set up so that they're just following the rabbis, whatever the rabbi says. You know, and they've even got restrictions on people, you know, they even want to read the Kabbalah, that have to be 40 years old and married, and they really restrict what's going on, what's being read and believed in Jerusalem today in Israel. And so I reach out to the Israelis out there today to get away from the Talmud, put the Talmud away, everything that those Talmudic scholars are teaching you, and get back to the original writings of Moses and the Old Testament and the prophets, because you will see through the writings of the Old Testament, the Torah, and the prophets, that Yahushua, Jesus Christ, fulfilled every prophecy that was prophesied by him in the Old Testament, and that he is the Messiah. He was the Messiah back then. He is the Messiah today, and he's coming back. Problem with the Talmudic scholars today is they keep telling the Jews the Messiah, the Moshiach, is coming, he's coming, he's coming. Well, he was already here once, and he's coming back again. And by the time they figure it out, he's going to have his feet on the Mount of Olives. The earthquake's going to split the mountain in half, and then they'll realize prophecy at that point. But that's what I'm trying to do now, is just reach out to all of them out there to get back and get away from the Talmud and get back to the real words of Moses and the Torah and the prophets of the Old Testament. And then maybe they can understand the New Testament. And, the Jews have this thing where they call everything mystical, and they taboo and brand everything is mystical when it comes to death or the soul or eternal life. And so that pretty much would keep the New Testament out of their hands. Because if you read the New Testament, all of it is about being born again. It's about the life or death of the soul, heaven or hell, where you will spend eternity, the return of Yahushua and the prophecies of the future, the last days. And so all of that would be branded and tabooed in Israel today as mystical, and so they wouldn't even go near it. And so, that's Satan's way of keeping even more of God's people away from the truth in him. And that's why the TalmudLies.com site is put up, trying to reach them out there. I put up the Islam Lies site, and within 3 days I had over 26 countries visiting that website, and it was just amazing. Because that's another thing, is that Islam, another group of people being kept from the truth that Yahushua was the Messiah, that Jesus Christ came and died on the cross, and of course the Muslims believe that he never died, he got away, that they stuck somebody else up on the cross that took Jesus' place and died, and that Jesus didn't die on the cross, because if he was a prophet of the Lord's, and they believe he was a prophet of the Lord's, just not the Son of God, but if he was a prophet of the Lord would have never killed him on the cross. Well, you know what? The Lord didn't kill him on the cross. Jesus gave his life on the cross so that we could have redemption of sins. And that's one aspect that the whole religion of Islam keeps from the people and deceives them on, is the fact that we even need redemption. To them, they teach that man is not inherently sinful or evil, and so we need no redemption. And as I stated on that website, after women and children they've abused all these years, Islam is just an excuse to abuse women and young girls. And we read it all the time, we see it all the time, and they call themselves a religion of peace. And yet all you see one day after the next, and one ruling after the next, is how unfair and how much injustice goes on in that legal system, how one Muslim man can lie and have his wife killed. He can just lie and say, I caught my wife sleeping with somebody, and before you know it, she's being stoned out in the middle of the street, or they're hanging him up by cranes. it's a very violent religion. There's no justice in it. It's set up by Satan to just pound on women. He hates women. It was a woman who gave birth to the Son of God. He's had a vendetta against women ever since. And he uses Islam to just degrade, dehumanize, and demonize women and children. And so it's just an arm of Satanism, folks. And hopefully a lot of people will get to that site and realize that, Muhammad is not who he said he was. I mean, they take the verse in our Bible about how the Lord prophesied the coming of the Comforter after he left, and they state that that was Muhammad. That he was, and in John 1:45, they quote a prophet from Moses, a prophecy from Moses about a coming prophet, and I also state that in John 1:45, where it's fulfilled that prophet from Moses was Jesus, and it even says, right there from the words of Moses or whatever, the law of Moses, and how Jesus fulfilled the prophecies of Moses, and all the Old Testament prophets are right there, and it was fulfilled through Jesus. It was not fulfilled through Muhammad. And at the original time that Muhammad had even received this word from a cave, this was another one of these Mormon things. Instead of going out and digging tablets up under the earth, he went and sat in a cave, and he wasn't even sure that everything that had been spoken to him was of God. In fact, he told his wife he thought I was an evil spirit. And it was his wife that convinced him that, no, that wasn't an evil spirit, that was God. And so now all of a sudden you've got a religion called Islam started. And over the years it's been even, taken for miles and miles. It's been manipulated and used for political agendas. And, maybe at one time it was a peaceful religion, and we know it was because there weren't always the violence. There wasn't always such the violence between the two races, the two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac, as there is today. And, we know that the New World Order had a hand in that. And it's all coming together here, who's sitting at the top controlling it all. It's almost like somebody's at the top pulling the strings of everything that happens in the world today. And you've got a problem in the east, the north, the south, the west, and somebody in the center is just pulling all the strings and causing everything to happen. And that's basically what's happening today, folks. And I've said on this show before and again, that is the Black Pope position in the Vatican, who sits behind the White Pope. He's the real power in the Vatican. And what was amusing was earlier this week I was reading a prophecy-related website, and this person was talking about the prophecy of the next Pope was going to be black. and folks, it's not a literal sense. It's not a literal the next Pope is going to be black. The Black Pope position we use the term black not in regards to color, but in regards to position as in secrecy, as in just total classified, hidden, kept away, out of the public's eye. In relation to those terms, because most people don't know a black pope exists, and we're not talking about skin color here, and so I just want to verify that to some of you out there that are just getting into prophecy and interested about it, and it's the first time you've heard about it. But it's his position in Rome, and his office, his main headquarters is, of course, at the building, the Church of Jesu, I believe it's called, and it's right there in Vatican City, and it's also the headquarters of the Knights of Malta. And the Black Pope is literally Satan's seat on earth itself. I mean, and the Black Pope being Hans von Kolvenbach, and Satan rules through this man on earth, and it is through this seat and these Jesuits at the Vatican that all of the strings of everything around the world are being pulled. Everybody is marching to their beat of the drum. And we're going to see that tonight. I'm going to talk to Eric, and we just have so much to get through because there's a lot of information about the Vatican coming out now, especially with the Pope's death. People want to know what's coming up next, and we're going to talk about that. But for, I was looking at some of the articles. You can look at my website at SherryTalkRadio.com. And I have Eric Jon Phelps. I have some of his articles on my site that are very good that are on there. His interview with Spectrum Magazine, Spectrum News, in regards to the Vatican. I also have some information on there on how he believes the tsunami recently in Indonesia was ordered by the Black Pope.